Pleased to say that Martin Hannigan from Verne Global is going to be giving one of his regular updates on undersea fiber infrastructure. So Martin's next up.
Put it up in the background. Let's put it in the background, and at the end of the presentation, I've got, basically I'm going to try and pull all of this together in a visual for you guys through some Google Earth work that we've done. Space up and down. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank Keith and UKNOF for allowing me to present. I'm really glad to be here. This is my 4th UKNOF. We really appreciate this. So I like to open my talks with a little bit of humor, and I found some humor in this recently. This is the opposing office for my corner, and it's the corner opposing my office, and it's the corner of Viking and Valhalla in Keflavik, Iceland. And I found it kind of ironic. I'll get through this slide quickly. Most of you know me. I'm Martin Hannigan. I'm the Senior Director of Engineering at Verne Global in Iceland. It's my telephone number if you ever need to call me. Iceland, briefly, 10 terabits of network capacity aggregate, diversity to the EU and USA, 2,500 megawatts of energy, zero carbon energy sources, green power, and that's all there is in Iceland is green power, and optimal data center climate. Iceland has a very temperate atmosphere, so airside cooling works great 365 days a year. Verne brief, we're network neutral. We have no interest in any of the networks that we're talking about today. 50 megawatts of power in our facility, high density capable, 100% free cooling. That ties back to optimal data center climate, and there's a contact email address there, or you could talk to me later about any other interest that you have in Iceland or Verne. So the message of this talk is basically to explain that there's a substantial amount of capacity available in the north. Some of the talks that I've done here before have represented the construction angle of these cables. We together learned a little bit about how these things are deployed and some of the work that goes into getting them in the water and making them reliable. The last talk that I did talked a little bit about the projects themselves and what the expectations were, and this presentation basically tries to pull that all together. This is really more of a guide than any kind of highly technical presentation, but I think you'll find it useful at the end. There are many improvements in the long-haul systems up north, high-cap cable systems, improvements in the terrestrial systems in many of these locations to support these cables, and there's a lot of new diversity available. So this table here basically gives you an idea of what's currently transpired, some of the players and the systems. I'm not going to talk through this block by block, but I think that as you can see, some of the key systems are represented here, and what I tried to do is tie them back to the UK with my UK presence column, and they're all available either in Ireland or in Telehouse. So that would be the Hibernia A and D cable. That's the north and south route to the US. Greenland Connect, which is a new cable that terminates in Iceland in the US. Halifax. The Faroe system, which has been existing for some time. The Danai system, which is currently under construction and almost complete. And the Shifa cable. All these systems are currently operational with the exception of Danai. The Danai system should be operational in the first quarter. So briefly, I'm going to cover a few of these locations. Ireland, as many of you probably know, Hibernia recently announced a branch off of their A system to Coltrane. There's a fully funded metro upgrade in process, and that metro upgrade is going to tie in the D cable in the south, which will give you an additional fully diversified network to the UK, but direct access to the US. As I mentioned, that metro network closes the loop between the two cable systems. Denmark and Amsterdam. I put this in here. It's not necessarily directly related to the UK, but considering that we're talking about an additional path to from the UK to these locations, I wanted to mention that the Dan Ice edition actually gives you access to this location through Iceland. Dan Ice has a presence in Iceland, but it terminates in Blaubjerg. There's an expected branching unit that will be lit in 2010, which will go to Eemshaven and be fairly close to Amsterdam. Terrestrial improvements, you're probably also aware that Hibernia recently implemented an Amsterdam express route, shaves about 2 milliseconds off from what I understand from London to Amsterdam, and also provides rapid access to a transit path that kind of bounces back through Ireland into the US and also allows termination to Greenland Connect. Faroese and Shetlands, the Schiefer cable completed recently, and Schiefer is basically Shetlands, Faroese. There's a side benefit to this cable, not only to the Faroese and Shetland Islands, but it decreases a terrestrial risk in the Faroe Ice system. Faroe Ice comes ashore in Dunnet Bay, and it runs about 250 kilometers to, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the name of the city is Inverness. And what this does is take another route off of what you're seeing here is a a Faroe Ice branch that goes through the Faroese and allows a connection to the Schiefer cable, which then runs into Banff. Greenland recently completed the Greenland Connect system. That system runs from Iceland to Kakortok, then back up to Nuuk, where they have a fairly unique implementation. They actually bring the Kakortok link in through one fjord, and they take the US link out another fjord. And the fjords are pretty close together, but the cables leave these fjords and start to diversify immediately. Some interesting terrestrial improvements. Most of Greenland's communications were satellite-based and radio relay. There's not a lot of people in Greenland, and this is some very expensive stuff. They provide the Tele-Greenland charter is to provide communications for all of these small towns, and what this cable does is basically give them a direct path from Kakortok that is not radio relay and is going to be probably a bit more reliable. It also takes their primary path off a satellite, which is going to help cut their costs. As a result, they ended up with some excess capacity in the cable, which is available, again, from the UK and Telehouse through Iceland, through the US. Iceland itself, 2 new systems, the Dan Ice system, which we've covered, the addition of Greenland Connect, which we've also covered. Some major improvements in the infrastructure that kind of ties this all together. There's actually competition in Iceland on the backhaul. There's a company called Mila and a company called Fjarski. Both of those companies are currently engaged in major route kit and capacity upgrades. As a result, there's a 5.9 capability on the island. There's competition, and this is how it all ties together. Faroe Ice comes in on the east coast into a landing station in Seyðisfjörður, pardon my butchering of that, and the Dan Ice and Greenland Connect stations are in the southeast. And again, they interconnect all these systems either directly or through some of this backhaul. This is what I like to call the North Atlantic Network Playbook. Contact information for all of the systems. You can put this away somewhere, and hopefully someday, if you need some diverse capacity, you can use this as a contact guide. So in summary, a lot of capacity build-out happening in the north. Despite the economy, all these projects are either completed or going to be completed. In fact, I think I mentioned that the only system not completed and operational right now is the Dan Ice system. Major improvements for Ireland and Iceland. Ireland gets direct access to the US, diversified and redundant. New diversity for the US. This is also beneficial for them. The UK, Denmark, and shortly Amsterdam through what I think will be a nice addition with that BU to Eemshaven. Options around Telehouse. As you know, Telehouse is a concentration of single points of failure. This could be a good protection strategy. Performance improvements for Ireland, Iceland, and Greenland. Cantat 3 is full. It's one of the reasons why I didn't mention it. It's also a low cap cable, and it's pretty old. I'm expecting to see that cable be deprecated by some of this activity and EOL shortly. And if you have any questions about anything in the north, please feel free to get a hold of me. I'd be happy to make any connections that I am able to make, and that's it. Any questions related to the presentation? I'm going to kind of slide into a little Google Earth view of what this looks like. Okay. I think, how do I do this? Okay, so. So this is what the Hibernia network looks like right now. As you can see, that's the Alpha and the Delta route, and with their connection to Southport. Once they complete their branch to Coleraine, it'll look like this, and this includes the metro. These are the additional routes that have come online in the last year. Let me see if I can darken this up a little bit. There we go. And let me shut borders off. Okay. So that's what the Hibernia system will look like when the metro upgrades and the branches are completed. And over here, I added in the interconnectivity from the UK that goes up to Banff and Inverness, and then follows a route through the Faroes and Shetlands, up here to Iceland. I detail all the backhaul interconnect. And finally, we pull in the Greenland Connect system and show the paths that complement each other in Canada and the US. And if I pull this back, I think that should give you what I really want to show. And then finally, here's the relation to some interesting places. My location in Iceland, the INEX, Telehouse North, the LONAP and Lynx. And then Telehouse Coleraine, obviously, Telehouse Dublin, and the branching unit to Eamshaven and Blauberg here. And if there are any additional questions, I'll take them now. Otherwise, thank you very much. That's it. Thank you. I'm not supposed to fall off of the podium.